As I build my coaching business, I want to know how to effectively serve clients and make more money doing it. This podcast will pull back the curtain to reveal exactly how successful coaches are building their empires. Join me as I engage with top coaches from all over the world to discover their secrets. No theatrics and no theory, just real life strategy. My name is William Winterton, and this is Coaching Success Radio. Hey, welcome to Coaching Success Radio. I am really beyond excited. My guest today has been featured on like every major network. She's been interviewed by some of the biggest names in media. Her new book, which is called Media Secrets Revealed, teaches you how to access and successfully land media gigs so you can propel you and your business to the next level. I am beyond excited to welcome to Coaching Success Radio the one and only Lori McNeil.
Oh, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Lori, I am delighted. We've had a few conversations back and forth just through Messenger, and I guess ever since this whole COVID-19 started, I don't know, a few months ago now, really kind of spiraling around. There've been a lot of conversations, and I know that I know you have a lot of experience. I know you have a lot of ideas and a lot of great resources, and I don't want to dwell on this too much because I don't know when somebody's going to be listening or watching this, but I do want to hit on the COVID-19 and kind of how you're using some of the strategies that you've already put in place to pivot and keep your business growing, not just surviving, but actually thriving and growing through this time.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely are in a very different time than most of us have ever experienced before, and that does require us to make changes, and for some of us make very drastic changes. So depending on wherever you are and the level of business, the type of business, maybe you've had to tweak a little bit, and maybe you've had to completely, tweak and change a lot. But the idea is to not continue doing the same thing, expecting that different result, but to go ahead and embrace the change that has to happen in order for you to not only survive and ride this out, so to speak, but truly to thrive. One of the biggest differences that I personally have made in my business is to do a lot more virtually online. So for instance, through summits, because I travel all over the world as an international speaker and business coach, I am used to being in a physical room on a physical stage. So that is something that is very, very different for me, that I quickly had to completely pivot and change. And then with that, all the different strategies then that have to happen in order to support that kind of a change. So whether it's, the different ways that I'm reaching out to people or communicating or positioning myself, marketing, different branding, different things like that. So I'm on a ton of virtual summits right now and have been for weeks. And I made that pivot very, very quickly. So that I could be in a better position to be on virtual stages rather than physical stages. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm booking all of my physical stages for more like early fall through the winter, that kind of thing. And I'm not booking anything so even if this whole thing were to lift next month, I'm still just being really careful with how I transition, with how moving from virtual back to physical. But the really cool thing about that, and this is a really important thing I think that people should pay attention to, sometimes your pivots can actually become some of your greatest blessings and opportunities. So although I've always done some virtual summits, I'm doing more virtual summits now than I've ever done before. And I will forever continue doing them more than originally planned, because of so many amazing opportunities that have surfaced in the last few weeks that truly have changed the scope of my business because of the opportunity that have come out of, this pandemic that we're in right now. So don't be afraid to step into that pivot, into that change, because you never know the ways that your business could actually come out of this stronger than you ever even thought when you lean into that a little bit more. So that's something that I personally am experiencing in my business, and that even though I'm going to be back on physical stages in the near future, I have now built in more virtual opportunities than I ever thought, and it is awesome. And so there's all kinds of ways that coaches and businesses need to pivot right now. And you need to find out what works for you. And then you could actually be surprised at where your business is 6 months from now, and what you discovered and learned in that process, and how your business is stronger because of that change.
An opportunity, really, like you said, to grow and not see this as something that's going to try and squish everything down. It really is just presenting another problem. That's all being an entrepreneur is, right? It's just you constantly get problems thrown at you. This just happens to be another problem. And I love what you said, that you're looking for ways to this just adds another like badge to to what you get to do. Cool. Now I have these virtual summits, and now I've got a big platform and a big following online. So not only physical, but also in the online space. So really using that, making an advantageous play out of that.
Yes, definitely. And one of the other really neat opportunities that I had because of all of this that maybe I wouldn't have, I don't know, is I was actually contacted by NBC a couple of weeks ago as an expert coach to be featured on one of their nightly news programs. And I had never done a national television show virtually before. I'm always in a physical studio, in a chair, on a couch kind of a thing. And that was a very different opportunity for me that I may or may not have ever had it not been for changes that I needed to make in my business. I very easily could have said, oh no, that's not something I usually do. But I leaned into that. And of course, all the technology that had to be in place on both ends in order to make that a rock solid interview and show. And it was awesome. It was absolutely just an amazing, unique experience that I hadn't had in all my years of being in media in the way that it needed to be, delivered and happen. And so that was something where my little wheels started turning with media, and even doing media differently, using technology in a different way that I will probably do intentionally moving forward. So there's all kinds of ways that your business can actually thrive, not just survive.
Let's talk about media, since you have that's so in your wheelhouse. And like you said, you have tons of experience. Like every major, I was going to go through your bio and I just kind of stopped. I was like, I don't know, what have you not been on, right? It's like interviewed by so many people and talked to a lot of people. But you're just out there telling your story and sharing what you know. And I know there's a lot of amazing coaches watching and listening to this right now who are thinking, how do I actually break out and actually get into something sort of like what Lori's doing, where I can go into different platforms and speak at a bigger audience. Your book, which Media Secrets Reveal, it going through and just talking this process and kind of making it more, I guess, real, accessible to people, like who don't think it's even possible. Start breaking down some of the ideas behind the book.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons why I wrote this book, the main reason why I wrote this book, is that I've been working with so many entrepreneurs, coaches, business owners who really don't understand how media works, and they don't understand how to position themselves for media, even though they know that it's beneficial, they know that it would help, but they're just not quite sure what to do. So one of the reasons I wrote this book was to break down the steps very, very simply, and just very specific do's, very specific, lists of do nots, so that you're not making the mistakes that I see so many people making. Because what I'm finding is that people are either spending tens of thousands of dollars to hire PR people and not getting the results that they were promised, or they're paying for somebody's learning curve because that person really doesn't have the connections that they're supposed to have, that they promise that they have, or that the person hiring them thought that they would have. Okay, so there's a lot of different, there's just a lot of different issues when it came. So I literally wrote this book to just make it really, really simple. So like, for instance, so there's 5 main steps in my 5-star strategy process that I teach. And in the book, I provide all of, not only the complete framework for you, but in the back of the book, I literally have what I call reflective sheets, so that you can fill them out and know exactly what you're supposed to do. So this isn't just a book that you read. This is a book that it's very interactive, and it's designed to be more or less the blueprint that you need for every single step. So that's what makes it a little bit more of a piece of curricula, or a workbook, if you will, because of how I've built the reflective sheets in the back. But there's very simple things that you can do to position yourself, even if you have zero experience in media. And I always joke around about the cat pictures. So I am still so surprised at how many people have inappropriate profile pictures on their social media. So your social media profile pic, it sounds simple, but it is a powerful introduction visually the first time for anyone that's coming across your page or that doesn't know you at all. So you need to get rid of the pictures with your spouses, with your kids, with your cats, with your dogs, you know, your favorite scenery photo. There's so many things I'm seeing out there. You need to have a nice professional headshot or a headshot of you that represents your brand that's only of you in some way. So, and that's just something that's so simple, but people are still not understanding the power of it. And then the header that you use on your social media, your website, your messages need to have that continuity. So for instance, your Facebook wall, your Facebook page should not be different and have a different message or a different color scheme or a different essence than your website. Okay, those need to have continuous visual messages, continuous written messages. Everything needs to be crystal clear so that it doesn't matter where someone finds you, that they are hearing and seeing the exact same thing. So you need to be crystal clear on what it is that you do, who you serve, what do you offer. Those things need to be very, very crystal clear and very prominent across the board so that there is no question about who you are, what do you do, and who do you serve. That should be very obvious. So these may seem like simple things, but let me tell you, there's people that are absolutely not understanding the power of the messaging, the power of the visual, branding that needs to take place. And so a high publication or a national television show, they're not going to be interested in people that aren't putting in the time into building up their own brand. If you can't build up your own brand, if you can't build up your own presence, you're probably not going to represent some of these, bigger players in the way that they need to be represented. And so it's really going to be doing a disservice to them, to their audience, and to you and to yours. So you need to have that foundation set very strongly from the beginning. So that's the first part of it, is just really, really more about positioning and researching so that when you research them and they research you, there's no question about the right outlet that you're looking for and the right, guest that you might be for them. It's that ebb and flow and that strong relationship there just in the research process. Then I teach people how to pitch. So there's many different ways to pitch media, depending on if you're doing, radio or television, podcast, written publications, and everything in between. There's different techniques that you use, but there's two kind of main ways that I teach in the pitch process. And so then in the book, I take you through that, depending on what you're trying to achieve, depending on your goals, I then guide you toward the best pitch that might be right for you. So this might sound obvious, but I'm just going to say, don't make this mistake. You don't just randomly contact someone without having a clue who they are, who their audience is, maybe someone that they can, you can reference in that communication. We know we have mutual friends and this person recommended you or something. You've got to have some kind of a connection, some type of a thing that really kind of piques that interest for that introduction a little bit. Don't just randomly contact people. You have to research who they are and what they're about to make sure that alignment, is really in the right place. I equate this to throwing spaghetti at the wall. I see so many people making the mistake because they're under the thinking of any media is good exposure. Well, there's a thought process behind that, and you can use any type of media. But really, in order to get to the result that you're after, to reach the target audience that you're after, you have to be in alignment with the right media outlets. So you're not just pitching anybody and everywhere that you possibly can. In your research, you're actually positioning yourself as the authority. And when you do that, you are in the driver's seat with which media outlets are best for your brand. You're not just saying yes to everybody. You're not just taking everything that you get. You're aligning yourself with the right media outlets for you. Then you want to learn about how to repurpose content. So there's a lot of people that might make a post with, oh, hey, I'm so excited I'm going to be on the show. And then afterwards, they might say, oh, hey, guess what, everybody, watch my episode, or, because I was on the show. And literally in most cases, you might see two posts, a before and an after. maybe some BTS, in there if it's something that's live. But in most cases, people aren't understanding how to repurpose their content and how to use and leverage every single opportunity and every single piece of content that actually then continues to position them stronger, so that media outlets are then reaching out to them, just like what happened to me with NBC a couple of weeks ago. I did not contact them whatsoever. I did not make an official pitch. They actually contacted me because they knew me to be a rock solid business expert in the area that they were looking for their show. And let me tell you that when you reach that point in media, it's an amazing, amazing milestone that you have reached, where you feel like you're not chasing people, that they're actually coming to you because you have done an amazing job in positioning yourself as that expert and repurposing that content and learning all of the different steps in how to do that. This is an area that I see a lot of entrepreneurs and coaches making the mistake where if they have extra time and they have extra money, they'll kind of throw it at some media opportunities. And I'm here to tell you that that is the absolute wrong approach. You have to have a clear media strategy plan that's incorporated into your business plan. So for instance, it's not just about a business. Most of us have heard of a business plan. It might be a 1-year plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan that you have. And it needs to be a living, breathing document. Your media strategy plan is a part of that media plan. They are not two separate, quote unquote, plans or strategies. You really need to put them together so that they can support each other in a very, very strong way. And so many entrepreneurs and coaches out there are not understanding this, and they're not doing this. And so they're not reaching that next level that they could actually be reaching. No matter where their success level is, they're not actually at the point that they could be, because they're not laying that strong foundation and they're not really understanding how media works. So I wrote this book as a down and dirty, very simple guide. If you have no experience in media, you absolutely can start getting booked and start positioning yourself and start learning how to repurpose content and all of the 5 steps that I teach. You can actually start right now today. If you go to Amazon for free shipping and buy my book and get it in 2 to 3 days, you literally can start positioning yourself like a rock star and completely debunk all of the myths out there that people have about media. Because let me tell you, there are a lot of things that people are doing wrong, and I put it right in black and white with why they're wrong and what you need to do things right.
It's about being very intentional. And I mean, you think you laid it out brilliantly. It's not a matter of just throwing mud at the wall and just seeing what sticks. There is a process to this, right? And there's actually a strategy to actually implement this and make this intentionally something that's a part of who your business is. I think a lot of people might get turned off the idea thinking that they're brand new or new in the sense that, oh man, I'm not going to ever be like, showing up on networks, and that's not really my goal. It's not even about that, I don't think. I'm understanding, because I'm listening to you, I'm thinking like, if you're in the first beginning stages of your business, if you start planning and preparing and prepping like this, then let's say that you never get booked for a million things, but you've just set this presence and you set the standard and you've elevated your own image, right? So instantly the clients come to you are going to perceive the value of your coaching higher, and you're going to be able to charge more, and it just stacks up. So there's really it's not a losing situation in this scenario at all if you plan for this properly.
Exactly. There's really not a way that you're going to lose. That was a good way to put it, because you can leverage any podcast, any radio, any opportunity. You can leverage that to completely up brand yourself if you understand how to repurpose the content, if you understand how to fully use it, and it's not just a one and done kind of thing. And that's what a lot of people are doing. They're really not understanding that the logos on your website or on your social media sites, those are really the cherry on top. Those are the visual things that are important that people need to understand, that's really the cherry on top. There's a whole bunch of amazing things that happen within the layers of the cake or the dessert, so to speak, that get you to that cherry on top. And when entrepreneurs are only after the logo, they're really doing their business a disservice, because they're not understanding the full the full world of media and how it works and how much more that they can actually be leveraging from every single opportunity. And that's what I'm so passionate about helping people understand, is that you're literally leaving money and opportunity on the table by not taking the time to dig a little bit deeper and implement some of these very simple strategies that actually are very important, vital, foundational pieces that are going to get you to where you want to go faster. We live in a world where people want to fast track success so much, and they think that if they kind of pick and choose a la carte, which strategies that they think are the most important, that they're going to get to where they want to go faster. And the truth is that there are experts in every area that your business needs. If you don't know how to do it, that's okay, but you can't skip the steps, because there's a reason why there's certain strategies that are in place for a reason. There's a reason why they work. And if that's not your zone of genius, then it doesn't make sense for you to pick and choose a la carte which ones you think are going to work. Because if that's not your area, then the truth is you don't know. So you need to dive in a little bit deeper and figure that out. But here's the caution that I also in media am finding is so important. If you don't have the time to dive in yourself, if you don't want to tackle this as part of your business, and you need to stay within whatever your zone of genius is, I totally get that. I'm totally on track with that. But here's what I do know. You have to educate yourself on what these steps are so that you know if the person you've hired is doing their job. If you know if the strategies that are being implemented are the right strategies for you and for your brand. You may not be the one doing the work, but you don't want to throw tens of thousands of dollars at an expert and just trust them blindly without being able to completely be the CEO of your own company and steer your own ship and understand fully why certain strategies are better for your business than other strategies. You can't just blindly trust someone to steer that part of the ship. You need to trust them, absolutely, but you need to take ownership of where your business is going and engage in the conversations and know how to do that. And the only way that you're going to know how to do that is if you actually know and understand the strategies yourself and at least what needs to actually be done. Because that's the other mistake that I'm seeing, is that people are blindly hiring experts and PR experts and firms and all of this, not even knowing what in the world that person is supposed to be doing. And so then they're confused and they don't understand why they're not getting the results that they're after. And they don't understand if they're being ripped off or not, honestly. And so even if you're not the one doing it, I always encourage people, educate yourself and at least understand how it works and what you need to be doing for your business.
How do you go about actually finding somebody and actually vetting somebody? Obviously, you have the book, you have the strategies yourself, but if you don't have the time to take it on personally, how do you actually make that step? Because that can seem like a very intimidating, very expensive mistake, obviously. So what kind of ways can we start looking at that?
So honestly, it depends on your type of business, and it depends on your goals. Because one of the things that I hear people say to me a lot, and it's because of that visual credibility and that lack of understanding, is that I hear a lot of people want to be on Oprah or the Today Show or Good Morning America, or some of those bigger, what they perceive as bigger names. But what they're not understanding is that might not be the best media outlet for their brand and for their audience. So yes, it's a logo that you can use on your social media, but it might not be. So it depends on what your goals are. If you're trying to get more coaching clients, if you're trying to position yourself better with a book or a nonprofit or a certain cause or whatever, there are definitely certain media outlets that will actually accomplish that for you in a much, much stronger way than just being on a show that's perceived to be like, the highest level tier, and I have to be there because that's going to make me look really cool. Not that having that logo is a bad thing, but it depends on what your goal, what you're actually after. If you're looking for stakeholders for a nonprofit, for instance, then you need to actually be looking at media outlets that have a certain focus that would be in alignment with that nonprofit. If you have media outlets who have, so every show, let's just say, has some kind of somebody involved behind the scenes in certain heart projects. You might have a media outlet that you'll notice that they'll do a lot of stories on maybe feeding the hungry or helping in their local school districts or whatever. And they'll do a lot of shows or a lot of efforts around certain charities or certain causes. So in your research, you then realize and figure out which one of those media outlets might be more in alignment with your messaging or with your nonprofit, where there's that commonality there, so that when you pitch, it's automatically going to be more interesting to them because it's something that they also care about. So one of the easiest ways to start is just start where you are locally in your own community. So this is something a lot of people don't want to do because it's perceived as not as important, not as big of a deal, not as cool, not as showy, but the reality is that that's part of that foundational piece that people are missing. You can't expect to be ready for national level media, whatever that might look like, if you haven't even done a local interview in your own community, or if you haven't even done very many, radio or podcast shows, whatever that looks like for you. And unfortunately, I'm talking to so many entrepreneurs where they want the big opportunities, but they haven't done very many interviews at all. So you can't expect to make that kind of a leap, because not only do you need to show that you are ready for that big opportunity to the person that you're trying to, attract, they need to see that you have experience in being interviewed. They need to see, some samples that how to be interviewed, all those things. But the other thing that gets pulled out of that is that your messaging as you speak it gets more and more rock solid, gets clearer and clearer and clearer, and you understand how to speak more in sound bites. You understand how to speak more about your story and about bridging, certain gaps that need to happen in your interview, all those different things that come through the experience and the practice that you need more than you think you do. Okay, so that's very, very important. I talk to so many entrepreneurs. They say, oh, my passion just comes out. But they're not understanding that, like, for instance, when you're on a national television show, you might only have 3 to 5 minutes. So that takes practice. That takes very, very strong clarity in your messaging so that you can answer questions super, super, super quickly. Now, radio and podcasts are a little bit different. You get anywhere usually from 30 to, maybe even 90 minutes. It just depends on the show. But national television literally is about 3 to 5. And in most cases, if you're brand new, it's going to be closer to that 3-minute mark. And let me tell you that if you're not practiced and if you're not ready, you are not going to leave that audience with the points that you thought that you were going to be able to make in that short amount of time. And it surprises people every time, because they'll get off the show and they'll say, but I didn't get to say X, Y, and Z. Well, it's because you actually weren't as ready as you thought you were. So there's a lot of misunderstandings about how get on radio, get on podcasts, get on your in your local newspaper, practice being interviewed, practice at your local level and your state level, because you have to have that proof anyway to even attract some of the bigger, top dogs, so to speak. And that's part of that positioning. And then as you're doing that, you're researching some of the maybe higher media outlets that you're wanting to go after, so that you're working on your positioning to be more attractive to them. So once you've identified maybe 3 to 5 as you're researching all over the globe or in your state, whatever your market is, then you're making that list and you're identifying, this is in alignment. This media outlet is in alignment with my messaging. They care about, they care about my cause, or they care about this, or they care about, helping business owners, or whatever that looks like. But let me tell you that once you are also more experienced, you will be able to more or less tweak your pitch to be in alignment with something that is attractive to what they're interested in. And your messaging then can be tweaked to where it's fitting. So you'd never ever want to change the core of who you are, the core of your business, the core of your messaging, but you can tweak it a little bit to where you're showing them how that you and your business are in alignment with something that they do care about. And that's something that just takes a little bit of practice to do. But don't worry. I always tell people, don't worry about trying to skip steps, from A to Z. you've really got to build that strong foundation first. And it really, truly starts with your local opportunities. If you have to drive 6 hours to be in a studio or to be on a, set somewhere, do it. Do it. It really is absolutely worth the opportunity for you, the brand building, the positioning, the practice, all of that stuff. Absolutely do it. I talk to people who don't understand the world of media, and they'll say, well, is it really worth the time in doing that because I'm not getting paid? Yes. The answer is yes. Absolutely, hands down. There's rarely an exception to that question. The answer is yes. Drive the 6 hours, drive the 10 hours, get on the plane to be on that show or in that studio for that radio show, whatever that looks like. Now, obviously during COVID-19 right now, we're doing a lot more virtually and they're not doing a lot of studio stuff. But the answer is yes. Whenever you have the opportunity, you show up, you put forth the time, you put forth the effort, and you do it because you understand the bigger picture of why it's important. And that's how you start. You just start small because that will get you there to where you want to go actually faster, because you're not going to be able to track the big dogs if you haven't done the foundational work anyway.
And if you're going to go on and you're not going to know exactly what you're doing, you want to mess up on a smaller stage anyway. So why not go out there and get the experience out there instead of, like you said, going on to somebody, some major program and freezing up because you just don't have it. And why not build that up? That's why I invite so many new coaches onto my podcast. I want to give them an opportunity to get their message out, and also just gives them a chance to get practice at and realize that there's more to work on than just coming up and just speaking your truth. There's actually a lot of practice that goes into that to make that effective. So.
Yes, absolutely. And you really can't put a price tag on the opportunity to practice. You really can't, because, okay, let's just say, so I talk to people all the time that say, well, what if I sounded like a complete idiot? First of all, you probably don't sound as bad as you think that you do, because we're always hard on ourselves. But let's just say that happened. Let's just say that you stumbled over every question and you were nervous and it didn't sound good. Let's just go with that scenario. You always, 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 always have some kind of footage. You can take photos and use that. You can take 10-second little snippets that maybe did sound really good, or 30-second little snippets, and use that as what I call a square audio, and put that on your website and put that on your social media and create the thumbnail of a rock solid professional photo and run that 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it is that maybe sounded awesome, and run that as an audio behind your thumbnail. You can always figure out ways to repurpose the content, even if you completely messed up. So let's just say that it was on the air on a national TV stage and you just completely bombed it. You always have the BTS. You always have the behind the scenes photos. You always can repurpose that content, even if you can't use the video portion of it. Or if you have a rock solid video, but you can't, you can strip the audio out of it. Whatever. There's so many different ways to repurpose the content. So A, it's never as bad as you think. And B, there's always a way that you can repurpose that content, even if it's 10 seconds, right? Or even if it's just a few photos. Doesn't matter what it is. So never, ever let that fear get in the way of you taking action toward putting yourself out there. Because one thing I also know is that you have a message that the world needs to hear. There's a reason why that desire is burning inside of you. There's a reason why you started the business that you are. There's a reason you want to help people, and only you can deliver that in your unique way. Nobody can be you. So in the way that you position yourself, the right people are becoming attracted to you, and you literally owe it to the world. It's your obligation to follow that desire and to step out and have that faith over fear and just figure it out. You don't have to know everything. You don't even have to know the next 5 steps. You just have to be willing to take that next step, because this is what I do know in all my years of coaching, is that people get really stuck in the fear of feeling like they don't have the complete plan in place. And what that is, because they feel like they have to know what all the next steps are, or at least the next, dozen steps. And what I do know is that it's not possible. It is not possible for you to see and understand all of the opportunities that will surface without taking that next step. You don't know that person that you're going to meet. You don't know that invitation that you're going to get. You don't know that message that you're going to hear that's going to unlock your mindset, that triggers, an idea that you have. It's not possible for you to see all of the options without taking that next step and having that faith over fear. It's just not possible. And that's what more people need to fully understand. Don't get caught up in the paralysis by analysis and stay stuck. This is one of the areas, and media definitely is a part of this. People have that, they have more fear over it because they don't understand it, and it looks intimidating, and it looks like it's a lot of work, and they don't know if they're doing it right, and all these things. You literally have to put yourself out there and just take that next step. And media is one of those things that has a ripple effect that happens fast. Once you put yourself out there a little bit and you take that next step and that next step, it will start to flow faster than you realize.
Media Secrets Revealed. Man, this has been incredible. Lori is a phenomenal resource. Pick up the book. It's on Amazon. It might take an extra day or two because of all this COVID stuff, but my gosh, it's totally worth it to grab. Thank you so much for taking the time today to share your wisdom and share this, actually making it kind of unwrap and not seem as daunting and not seem as impossible to get out and actually get your message out. So do appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I love teaching people how to use media to impact and reach more people. It's why I broke the steps down in such a simple, easy to follow way in my book, because I care about you getting your messages out there. And I'm tired of people wasting their time and money and basically not understanding it and being taken advantage of. So I am super passionate about teaching the secrets of media.
Thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you.
Hey, what's going on? So thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Listen, if you would do me a big favor, if you've enjoyed today's shows and any of the previous shows, go to iTunes and go ahead and click on, first of all, click on subscribe. Second of all, I want you to leave me some love. That's not too much to ask. 5 stars would be awesome. Positive review. And stay safe and healthy out there. I'll see you on the next episode.